So in the last video, I had all the steps listed out for you. In this one, we're going to do this together. So we have 5 times 2 and 2/3. Step 1, always step 1. We cannot multiply it when it's like this. We can't do 5 times 2 and 2/3. So what we have to do is change 2 and 2/3 into an improper fraction. So I'm going to do, 2 and 2 over 3, and I'm going to put my x at the bottom, my plus at the top. X at the bottom and plus at the top. And I'm going to do, starting at the bottom because the denominator is the most important, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. And we keep the 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, and we keep that 3 because he demands to be kept. The denominator is demanding. And we get 8 over 3, or 8/3. Now, step 2. Now that we have this, and I'll actually write out step 2 for you so that you can see the difference between the steps. Let's actually do it that way. Step 2. Now that we have 8/3, we can multiply it by 5. So I'm going to bring the 5 down, times 8 over 3. 5 times 8 over 3. And remember, a whole number gets multiplied by the numerator, by the top. 5 times 8 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So I put the 40 at the top. Do we multiply 5 by 3? No, never. We leave the 3 alone. The 3 comes over here. Now we have 40 over 3. But would we say 40 over 3 ever? 40/3? So now we're going to move on to step 3. This is a 3-step problem. We're going to make 40 over 3. And I'll use a different, my nose is itchy. We'll use a different color and a different board. So 40 over 3 equals, and we want to turn 40 over 3 into a whole number and a fraction. So here's my whole number and here's my fraction. Those x's those are what we want to fill out. So how do we do that? Well, we could draw out 40 dots and separate them into groups of 3, and each group would be a whole. Or, if you would like to try a different way, you can just divide 40 by 3, which is pretty interesting, so I'll do it both ways. So for the first one, I would draw out 40 dots. So I'm going to do that, and I suggest you draw out 40 dots on your paper right now. Okay, here we go. I drew out 40 dots, all in that time. So what you're going to do now is break them up into groups of 3, because the 3 tells you that 3 1/3, each one of these dots is 1/3. 3 of those make a whole. So I'm going to circle how many holes I have. I'm going to circle my groups of 3 right now, and I'll use a different color so it's easier to see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. And remember to put a +1 over each of them, because that reminds me that I have to, these are a little close, so I'm going to draw this a little better. That reminds me that I have to add them all up. So I have to count how many holes that I have in here, and each hole is represented by one group, one circled group of 3. So let's see how many holes I have. I have 1, 2, 3 at the bottom, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I have 13 is my whole. So I'm going to put it in the whole spot, right over the X. But I have one missing, so I circled 39, but this one right here, this guy, I'm going to draw a little cloud around him, he's my remainder. He's my leftover. So what do I do with him? I put him as a over 3, because remember, the 3 is always kept. We keep the 3. But how many do we have left over? Just 1. So I put the 1 on top of the 3. So 40 over 3 is actually equal to 13 1/3. But there's an easier way to do this, and I'm going to teach you that one right now. So the other way to get 40 over 3 is just 40 over 3, just divide. 3 divided by 40. 3 divided by 40, that's it. 3 goes into 4 how many times? Just once. 1 times 3 is 3. We subtract, and we have 1. And then I bring down, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, start all over again. 3 goes into 10 how many times? 3, 6, 9. I can't go over, so only 3. 9 goes at the bottom, and I end up with a remainder 1. That sounds familiar. Remainder 1, and what does it go over to make it a fraction? 3. You can use any of these, and that means that 40 over 3 equals 13 is the total, and our remainder is 1, and we put it over 3. Boom, done. So, you are going to continue this lesson, and I'm going to put the word problems from the other lesson, because the word problems are going to be pretty much the same as this. And that'll be it. Thanks, guys.